How's it going, everyone? It's Ben Foggins Media Corner back again with a brand new video for today. Welcome back to another movie review, aka After I Saw. This time it's going to be on Snow White. This is, of course, the very controversial live-action remake from Disney, and of course being based on one of the most beloved animated classics of all time, which is, of course, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. In case you somehow do not know the story of Snow White, it's basically that we follow a princess named Snow White, who in the film is portrayed by Rachel Zegler, and she joins forces with the Seven Dwarfs to liberate her kingdom from her cruel stepmother, the Evil Queen, who's played by Gal Gadot. So that's pretty much the story of the controversial Snow White live-action remake. Now, of course, this movie has faced massive infamy just due to the fact there's been so much hate surrounding this whole movie, even way before this film was even released. And it's common nowadays for some films, that's for like anything at all really, like remakes of like popular films or anything in general really. And since this is another live-action remake from Disney, you're just bound to know there's going to be quite a bit of controversy, in which this film has faced numerous controversies. And of course, we're getting another live-action remake from Disney very soon, which is, of course, Lilo and Stitch, which doesn't look too bad, but we'll see how that will turn out to be very soon. And when it comes to the original Snow White movie, it is still one of the most beloved animated classics out there, and it still holds up to this day for being one of the most beloved ever, and it is generally one of my all-time favorites, and even rewatching it, it still holds up. But as for this live-action remake here, that's been facing numerous amounts of controversies, I would have to say this is probably one of the weakest of them all. The casting of Rachel Zegler as Snow White did gain controversy all over the internet, not just due to the fact that she feels the role of Snow White, it's just due to the fact of what she's been saying about the original movie, which did make people angry online, as well as for something else that she said online, which I'm not going to get into. But her performance in this movie, I gotta say, while I might get cancelled for saying this, her performance is the least of the movie's problems. She does do her best for her performance in this movie. And she does have a nice singing voice in this movie when it comes to the songs in the film, even though the songs are not even all that memorable whatsoever. But when it comes to Gal Gadot herself as the Evil Queen, her performance in this movie just felt questionable. Like, she just felt questionable in this movie because she tends to be pretty quirky in some scenes, and it was really hard for me to take it really seriously for her performance throughout the majority of this movie. But let's talk about the elephants in the room, the dwarfs. Oh my god, why did they massacre my boys? Like, the digitized effects on them is just so distracting, and yeah, it looks awful. And even for the scenes that they were in the film, they just tend to ruin some scenes due to the overall because it was overall very distracting for the way they look in the film. For like some of the serious moments with the dwarves, which was really, it just totally ruined that. Those scenes just totally ruined it, just to the overall look of themselves. And even their introduction in the film, yeah, was really awful as well, because it was much more longer than the original animated classic. And even one of the voices of the dwarves, which is Grumpy, his voice in the film took me off guard, and it doesn't really capture the charm like in the original movie. And there are times where the film focuses on Dopey, and there are some serious moments with him in which doesn't really capture the magic that much. And there's even one big thing with him in this movie that I'm not going to say because it is a big spoiler, but it was the way I felt with it was just a big WTF when I saw it on screen. And when it comes to the story of Snow White trying to take back her kingdom from her evil stepmother, the Evil Queen, I just felt like it didn't need to be added into the film, and it was something I didn't really care for at all, really, because it's something that I've seen before in other films in the past that have done a better job than this movie and all that. And there are some like plot lines that goes on within the movie as well, and they were just really unnecessary whatsoever, and it doesn't really capture. And there are some times where the film does have a few other changes here and there, which doesn't really capture the magic that much here. And while the film is being made on a $200 million budget, the production sets and the costumes in this movie weren't even all that special to me, despite being made on that amount of money that's being spent on making this whole movie. But in the end, guys, this controversial remake of Snow White, it's certainly one of the weakest of them all, alongside some other live-action Disney remakes that were just like one-time watch myself, and certainly not my all-time favorites. It's definitely nowhere near on like the same level as like some of the other live action remakes from Disney that I enjoy the most of, like The Jungle Book or Cinderella or Pete's Dragon or whatever. It's just on the weaker side, but I wouldn't put this on the same level as Pinocchio, because that is by far Disney's very worst when it comes to their live action remakes. It's also, and I can also describe this one for being not the fairest one of them all. I'm gonna give Snow White 2 out of 5. Overall, just a one-time watch myself, and it's one I would never revisit again whatsoever, alongside some of the other live action remakes from Disney that I certainly wasn't really a fan of. And we'll see how Lilo and Stitch will do very soon, once it does come out very soon. Because obviously I will see it, since I do love Lilo and Stitch. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching my AK After Toy Store review on Snow White. And I'd like to know what you guys think of this live action remake, if you've seen this already, or if you just recently checked this one out. And as always, this has been Foggins Media Corner signing off.